How's it going, everybody? I'm Ryan. He's Abby. We are the Expansion Bros, and we are back. Happy holidays and Happy New Year to those of you that are listening, maybe potentially a little bit late. I know we haven't been around in a while, and I don't really have much to talk about. Well, I'm much good. I got a lot to talk about, Abby. How about you? How are you doing? How are you? How's your holiday season? How are things going?
Good. I'm ready for Christmas, for the New Year's. I'm ready to just spend some time with friends and family. But Canucks hockey has been interesting recently, so I'm happy to go into that and whatever you want to describe Buffalo Sabres hockey as, we can talk about that as well.
Honestly, I think the fan base is having the most fun. I don't know if fun's the right word, but I think they're at least taking the jokes, like they're making jokes out of it, and they're making the best out of a terrible situation. And at this point, I'm just wondering how long until they do something, right? Like, it's an absolute embarrassment. They're getting clowned on by other players. I don't know if you heard the quote from Marcus Foligno the other day.
Oh my god, and bum players too. Marcus Foligno, he's a freaking bum.
He's a former Sabre.
That. My god.
He grew up in this area.
Yeah.
And he's just having pot shots at us in his post game, like they're in a little bit of a slump, but we're not Buffalo. Like, okay, you don't need to say it. He's not wrong, but you didn't need to say it.
So unnecessary. It's like kicking the homeless man as you're like walking by. Like, you didn't need to do that.
Absolutely
My
not.
God.
But we'll save the Sabres talk for a little bit later here. And we'll just get into the Canucks, because you guys are the team that we had hope for. And Demko's back, which I'm super excited for, because I love Demko. We love Demko. We're big Demko supporters on this pod. We love ourselves some Connor Garland too. He's been pretty good this season. He started hot, and I think he's been a little cooler here in December, if my fantasy team tells me anything.
Yeah. I think with the players like Garland, right, and Garland, and more sometimes you can even see it with JT Miller and stuff, right, is they do a good job of affecting the game even when they're not necessarily scoring. Like, Connor Garland's like a fierce forechecker. He's physical, and he's just annoying to play against. So even when Connor Garland isn't scoring, he's still an effective player on the ice.
Yeah, and he's always been one of those guys that I've loved, right? I've pounded the table that Connor Garland is a great player. Ever since we started this podcast, right? Even before then, I've loved Connor Garland. He was in Arizona, right? And that's where you guys got him from?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think I wanted him from Arizona back then, and we never ended up getting him, and he's been a great get for you guys. Oh,
for sure. I think, and it's a bit bittersweet, right? Because if fans can recall, that wasn't the OEL trade, the trade that we sent a first-round pick to Arizona that ended up landing Arizona Dylan Guenther. So I think it's a little painful every time you see Guenther, and Guenther scores his 8th goal, and Guenther carries Arizona for the 5th straight game, and Guenther does this, and Guenther does that. It's like, oh my god. I want freaking WWE's Guenther to freaking, just freaking slap me in the chest. My god, it's like that every single time. Like, fuck off. So for OEL, who was terrible in Vancouver, and even worse, has gone on to be solid in Florida and even in Toronto. So
I will say, though, with your track record of developing prospects, I don't know how much of a shot Guenther might have had to make it to where he is today if he was in Vancouver.
Sure, but I mean, talent tends to win out. Like, look at Patterson, look at Hughes,
look at the Buffalo Sabres. Talent wins out.
That's true. You guys have had some players like Dahlin, and Power, and
Abby, it's
Tuck.
a joke. You don't have to tell me that the Sabres are good, because clearly, being the worst team in the East, they are not good. But I know what you're saying, right? That more often than not, the good players, the cream rises to the top, and the good players will make the NHL just because they are good enough players. And I think you're probably right. Guenther, he's got too good of a shot to ignore, but you guys got Lekka Ramaki. I haven't kept up too much tabs on your prospects, but right now, let's just talk about this Vancouver team, because I'm looking at your lines. He's got it in the blender, doesn't he? Tocchet.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. The lines have a bit of a blender. I feel like we've had two pairings that have kind of stayed together. We have Patterson and DeBrusk, and we've had Miller and Besser. Outside of that, people move up and down the lineup. Sherwood's moved up and down the lineup. Now he's on the fourth line with Heinen and Bluger. You have Höglander, who's been in and out of the lineup. You've had Joshua and Garland, who have moved up both together and separately up and down the lineup. So yeah, things are definitely in a little bit of disarray at the moment.
And one of the things that I've noticed, though, is that you've been able to solidify at least, I think, your fourth line, right? I feel like the Bluger, Sherwood, Heinen line is pretty solid. And to have Heinen and Sherwood come in as really cheap acquisitions to fill out that bottom six, and we talked about this before the season, that you guys have the star power, and the stars have arrived, and you've got Miller and Besser and Pettersson and Garland. You've got DeBrusk, right, who's a second-line winger, perfect goal scorer for you, right? And you got Hughes, he's amazing, right? Hughes is insane. And Demko when he comes, right? We talked about all those guys. What you needed was to make sure the bottom six stayed strong. And I think I personally want to shout out to Kiefer Sherwood, sat next to him, go Redhawks, in stats class once. So always rooting for Kiefer Sherwood, and he's having a great season. So that's awesome for him. But honestly, like that fourth line, those are the contributions you need.
Yeah, I agree. Clearly he got the rye bread touch, and now he's made it to the NHL. So if you see Ryan in real life, try to touch him, and you'll make the NHL too.
I don't think we ever touched physically. That would be weird.
All right.
Don't touch me. If you see me, don't touch me. I don't want to just
Ryan, just stare at him creepily in the distance, and you'll become an NHL player. No, Kiefer Sherwood's been a great contributor. I think Danton Heinen's had a little bit of a slower start, but Kiefer Sherwood, as you said, has been a great contributor. He's got 11 goals, which is his career high so far, just 32 games in. And he's just been a really good driving force. I don't know if he still is, but he was leading the league in hits there. And he's just been everything you could want out of someone in the bottom six. And he's someone, again, who's moved up in the lineup at times, played with the first line. Great addition.
Yeah, and he's getting the highest ice time of his career, 14:33 a night. And I've noticed that Tocchet has given him more ice time than you would expect from a fourth liner, but I think he's exactly the kind of guy that fits the Tocchet system. And speaking of the Tocchet system, what happened to your guys' offense? You guys aren't generating any, you guys are, believe it or not, this may surprise you, but you are the third lowest team in the NHL in high danger chances for, something I harped on the Sabres last season. The Sabres, by comparison, are 18th. But when it comes to high danger chances against, you guys, you're in the top 10. I think you're actually 10th. So you're still not generating more high danger chances for than against, but it's just kind of low event hockey. And I feel like that's different. Last year, you guys were a lot of offense. This year has kind of peeled that back. Has that been a tactical thing because you guys haven't had Demko? Is it because the blue line is a lot weaker and, well, those bottom depth additions haven't worked out as well for the blue line as the forward core? So can you just explain that one to me? Because as somebody that doesn't get to catch a lot of games and wants to watch a lot of the Vancouver Canucks, I don't want to be bored to tears when I'm staying up past 11 p.m. for the puck drop.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get to go to the Columbus Blue Jackets game in person. If you guys watch the YouTube highlights and pause it at the right time, you can see me and my sister, not our faces, but you can see us facing towards the ice because I think we were on rink side or rink level. I think I see what you're saying as well, where they're definitely playing safer hockey, but I think it's not, I don't want to just contribute it to Demko was out, they wanted to play safer hockey, because Lankinen was very, very good. And Demko has been good since he's come back.
Thankfully. Yes, that's what we were hoping for. We weren't hoping for him to come back and just be, I was actually really concerned, right? All the messaging around that injury was weird, and I really didn't want to have anything bad come of it.
Oh, I was very much like a la 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 la. Well, my friend was going there's a chance he comes back and he's never the same. I was like la la la. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. My ears are plugged by my Demko jerseys. Okay, I think again sometimes offense just doesn't click, right? I think it can't be all the explanation because again, like you said, you don't just go from one of the better offenses of the league to third worst in terms of high danger chances just like that. But I don't think it's just because, the defense is downgraded just because Demko was out. I think it's a multitude of factors. One of the things being right now, the offense, outside of Jake DeBrusk, who just was on that goal scoring tear for a while there, just isn't always clicking, right? You have kind of this rumored beef between Miller and Pettersson, and you have just this. Everyone's kind of in their lull right now. Like Miller just came back. We have Fronek out right now. Everybody's feels like everybody has dealt with something this year, and it feels like we just need to give the team a little bit of patience, and hopefully eventually they'll hit their stride. Because I think what we've seen, not just in Vancouver, but in many other organizations, winning solves everything. If you're winning, people will put aside their beef and everything will be a-okay.
Yeah, what's that like? I wouldn't know. But like the team that everybody says when they're like, "Oh, winning solves everything," the team that comes to mind for me is the New York Islanders. Right, for years they've been predicated on this defensive style of hockey. Shut it down, play really defensive, like 2-1, lean on their two really good goalies. And nobody's ever, like, other teams obviously complain about it, but obviously they're fans. They're great fans over there on Long Island, and they probably weren't complaining with a bunch of playoff runs. And I don't know if they were ever going to win the cup, so maybe that might have pissed people off after a certain amount of years. But, you know, like you said, winning solves everything. So however you're going to do it, you're going to do it. And and for the Vancouver Canucks this season, I know I'm talking about, the high danger chances aren't there and yada, 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 advanced analytics. I mean, you guys are still middle of the pack when it comes to goals for at 14th and middle of the pack in goals against per game at 14th. And your points percentage is 13th, right? So we're just seeing you guys are just a bang average team. And I feel like now with Demko healthy and, get these lines clicking, I feel like you guys will be fine. It's probably one of those gonna be a slow start. You guys had a massive amount of injuries, right, coming into the season. So we're not even at the new year yet. We're not even at the 41 game mark. I'm not concerned about Vancouver's place in the standings. I know they're 1 point ahead of Calgary, up for being like the 10th team in the West, I believe it is. But you're also 2 points behind Edmonton, 4 points behind LA, who's surprisingly one of the best analytical teams in the NHL. So I'm really surprised with the LA Kings. I'm going to have to revisit our predictions because I specifically remember I picked the Capitals to make the playoffs, and they're flying high at the top of the Metro. I think I might have picked the Sabres to make the playoffs too. And that Demko guarantee doesn't look too great right now, bud.
Hey, you never know. That one quick trade where you trade, what's his face? You trade you trade Cousins and you trade Byram for McDavid. It's going to change just like that.
For McDavid, I don't know. But speaking of, and we'll just use this as a little bit of time to maybe transition between the Sabres and Canucks talk. Our teams are always, I shouldn't say always, but over the last 2 to 3 years, we've been linked on a lot of rumored deals. I mean, we had the Riley Stillman deal, which is an absolute nothing burger it's a nothing burger of a trade. Bloom, I believe, is who we sent you guys. He's never going to sniff the NHL. He might be a middle six winger in the AHL someday, but I don't think he's going to touch the NHL. I'm not rooting against him, but it just doesn't look very likely at this point. But Elliot Friedman talked about a potential trade between our two teams, and it doesn't feel like the messaging between the Canucks and Elias Pettersson has really been warm and fuzzy over the last couple months, couple years even, right? It feels like the whole extension, they're like, well, they'll probably just ship him off because things don't really sound like they're progressing. And, oh, by the way, he signs an $11.6 million deal. So there you go. And now we're talking about this again. So I don't know if this is just Vancouver, Canadian media trying to stir something up for the western half of the country. But I don't know why he's on the block. But you mentioned Cousins and Byram for Elias Pettersson is one of the things that I've heard from Elliot Friedman. ESPN mentioned that Byram for Besser could be a move that is made as well. So, I mean, honestly, give me your take on these trades. We can obviously discuss the players because, we know them pretty darn well.
This is where, I want to be respectful, of course, of my co-host and his team and everything. But I mean, this is with all due respect. I have no interest in trading anyone with or from the Buffalo Sabres whatsoever.
That's how you guarantee yourself a cup, though, right? O'Reilly,
You know what? That is true.
Reinhardt,
Yeah,
Eichel,
yeah, yeah.
Montour, Kulikov, Oposo. Like, you just got to do it.
You know what? Maybe this is the key, and maybe this is why I'm not a GM. But no, I think looking at the proposed trades, I think one of the most was actually both the players you mentioned for Elias Pettersson. And with all due respect, we don't need another scoring center, right? Elias Pettersson is a scoring center, a proven two-way 100-point scoring center, and even if he doesn't have it this year, giving up such an asset for two fine players is just not good asset management. I'm sure Bowen Byram will be a great top 4 offensive defenseman one day, but it's just the value isn't there. I think Puck Empire recently put out an Instagram post basically outlining players' trade value, and I think Pettersson was seen as the 38th most valuable player in the league, which doesn't sound all that impressive, but to be clear, 37 was like Kirill Kaprizov.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're talking there's 32 teams in the league, and every team's got 1 star-ish, right?
Yeah, like, he uses like 6 or something.
Yeah, right? So that's your second star, if you will, and I would probably, I don't know, I might put Miller over Pettersson with the way they're playing right now.
Miller's, I think, a little lower because he's just older, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? You have to put age into account. I think Miller's like 30, 31. So I think he was like 98 or something like that.
Okay.
Which is still not bad, considering his age and his contract and stuff. Like, the fact that he's 98, I think that shows he's a very, very good player. Or was it 48? It might have been 48. I don't remember. I don't know if it was top 100 or top 50.
I was going to say, I would put Pettersson and Miller much closer. I know Pettersson has the history. He's got the pedigree. But a guy like JT Miller just produces, right? He's one of those guys that you want and you need if you're going to be a cup contender. So I understand what you're saying about, we don't need a defensive or another offensive-minded center. But basically what you're doing is you're downgrading from Pettersson to a guy that does still have a very high draft pedigree, still is super duper young. He's cost controlled for a lot of years. I mean, $7 million, so you're shedding some cap there. But I think the bigger piece is, so you downgrade Pettersson to Cousins as your second line center. They're both kind of similar ilk, right? Offensive minded players. They're not two-way shutdown guys. Not trying to say that that Cousins is Pettersson. Don't get it twisted, Canucks fans. But what I'm saying is you downgrade Pettersson to Cousins, who, I mean, come on. He's still got, like I said, the talent. Maybe just needs a change of scenery. Obviously, getting out of Buffalo helps everybody. But then you get Bowen Byram to help that blue line. I mean, Bowen Byram is, especially with Hronek out, he easily slots in as your number 2 defenseman. He's better than Myers. He's better than Soucy. He's better than Juleson. And quite honestly, Bowen Byram is having a very, very impressive season. Now, not on the stat sheet, but I've watched the plays he's making, the breakouts, the defensive shutdowns, the zone denials, the zone exits. It's all been really good from Byram. Now, he didn't have the hottest 10-game start, but of this 12-game losing streak we're on, I've really been impressed with Byram's game. And it's been a player the Canucks have been in on in the past. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is something here. And I mean, Buffalo, are you really going to pay $7-8 million for another offensive-minded left-shot defenseman? We've done that twice. By the way, you're also still paying Matthias Samuelsson $4 million plus $4+ million over the next 7 years. If that dude can ever play 60 games, I'll be impressed. So I don't see the fit for the future here for Bowen Byram. And I honestly, I'll take this straight from the Steve Dangle podcast. Most teams in the league need Byram. The Sabres don't, right? They don't need this offensive dynamic puck mover because they have a couple of those guys already. And I think Pettersson, get him to maybe a quieter market, less headlines, let him focus on his game a little bit. And the Sabres have him locked up long term. There's their 1C. Him and Tage Thompson, that's one heck of a duo. And then maybe you could, I probably wouldn't move Thompson to the wing, but those guys are bona fide stud centers. So from a Buffalo perspective, honestly, if we are going to move on from Dylan Cousins, this is the kind of deal I would want it to be.
Yeah. So then I guess we can say, how much more would you be willing to give up? Let's say the deal is Byram and Cousins for Pettersson. I wouldn't be comfortable with that yet. So I'm curious to see if we can reach a compromise here.
Anything
How
but a
much more
first.
would you be willing to give up?
If you can have Isaac Roseanne, you can have a second. Like, I really don't care. You have our futures. I don't give a shit about futures. No B prospects, no picks. Like, honestly, at this point, I'm done. Right? How many years is the Athletic going to say the Sabres have the best pipeline in the league? And we're going to be talking about Christmas Day. Our season's over already. So I'm done trying to develop Rosen. I'm done trying to develop all these players in Rochester. Like, we need help now. This franchise is literally burning to the ground as we speak. So you sent off Savoy. I don't care. Send off another prospect. I mean, I don't really want to give up Consta Hellenius, and you aren't touching Benson. But I would honestly give up any other prospect in the pipeline. You could have Jack Quinn. Honestly, I will give you an extra first if you take Jack Quinn at this point.
Okay. And
obviously a bit facetious, but
here's a proposal. Okay. Elias Pettersson to the Buffalo Sabres.
Deal. Done.
Just wait.
For free.
Yes, no, take him. All yours, buddy. Bowen Byram to the Calgary Flames.
3-team deal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rasmus Anderson and Dylan Cousins to the Vancouver Canucks. Figure out the picks and the other players you need to do. And I think that works. So I think right now the Canucks window is obviously I see Bowen Byram as the higher upside, but Rasmus Anderson is better right now. And I think the Canucks want to go on a run over the next couple of years with Miller while he's still young enough to have all his speed. Obviously Besser and all these guys, they're middle-aged. I think Rasmus Anderson's age kind of fits their window better than Bowen Byram, because Bowen Byram I think is still going to take a couple more years to kind of hit his stride. So I think that's
closer
where having
than you
the
might
NHL
think, though. I like where your head's at. I don't think you guys would probably have to add quite a bit, because I think Calgary's going to need more to ship off Rasmus Anderson than just what? Like you said, Dylan Cousins to Calgary, and that was it?
No, Dylan Cousins here. So you get Pettersson, they get Bowen Byram plus probably whatever B prospects and seconds and stuff you were offering us now get shipped off to Calgary. We probably throw in a couple thirds as well.
But I don't see. So I know where you're going, but I don't see how us sending more to Calgary gets us Pettersson. I just don't see that.
So we can get Anderson. So we end up with Dylan Cousins and Rasmus Anderson.
Yeah, but why are we paying more on your behalf?
Well, because otherwise you just have to pay it to us directly.
I mean, yes, I guess that's how it would go. So I guess if you want to loop it that way, but yeah, I mean, it's a really, really interesting discussion. I kind of want to talk about the other one. The other one feels a bit more realistic to me, and that's Brock Besser for Bowen Byram. Now, Brock Besser, another guy who's always in trade rumors coming out of Vancouver. I mean, what is going on with you guys? Pettersson and Besser were like the core, the future with Quinn Hughes, and now every time somebody writes a trade article, those two guys are in it? Like, first of all, thoughts on the trade, but second of all, thoughts on why?
Brock's a fan favorite here. I think they'd be crazy to trade him. He's a good goal scorer, and he's having a fine season. I think they should extend him. So that's my thoughts on it. I wouldn't trade him for very much in this league. As far as value goes, I mean, you could say, it is, filling a need for the Canucks, filling on the back end. But like I said, we've only had two pairings that have even stuck together all this season. Besser, since he came back, has been with Miller, and Pettersson, since we went to Brusque. Breaking up one of your only two pairings on the roster seems like a foolish move in my opinion. In terms of skill and value, maybe it is a lot closer and something more realistic and something you can work with. And again, like you said, see the value of Bowen Byram on this team, but I don't think Besser's the asset you give up to do that. And maybe that means we don't have the asset to give up that's worth it for Buffalo, but then that just means we shouldn't trade for Bowen Byram.
Yeah, I think I like Besser for Byram straight up better for the Canucks than I do the Pettersson for Cousins and Byram trade. I mean, honestly, though, well, here's the thing. You're not saving much cap in the current season, right? And Cousins is only making, I shouldn't say only. He's making just about $4.5 million less than Elias Pettersson. So if you can milk the good out of Cousins and he returns home, right? The workhorse from Whitehorse, like comes based. I don't want to say like home. It's like people
It's a little
saying,
south.
yeah, like it's like saying, oh, people from Syracuse are from Buffalo. Like it's close. It's a couple hours, but I know what you're going after. But you know what I'm saying? Like mom's home
I think
cooking
it's a
is
little
not
more than a couple hours. A different province.
Yeah, well, but you know what I'm saying? Like same kind of Western Canada, right? Mom's cooking is a lot closer than he is when he's in Buffalo. So, but that's to me. I think maybe that is just a mental reset for Dylan Cousins, who's shown every time he plays for a team that's not wearing blue and gold or black and red. Actually, I guess Team Canada wears black and red. I take that back. Anytime he does plays for a team that's not based out of Buffalo, he does well. Like the World Juniors, the World what is it, that tournament over the summer that some of the guys participate in. I don't even know the name of it, but it's like the World Championships or whatever.
It's not Spengler Cup. It's something else.
Yeah, but every time he puts on the Team Canada sweater, they put him on the right wing of somebody, and he scores like a goal per game in these tournaments. And I'm like, bring that to me, please. That's the Dylan Cousins I want. But instead, I get the Dylan Cousins that tries to skate straight, like literally just does this and straight.
He's wiggling the right stick.
Yeah, it's all he does, and it's just and I love all these guys, and I want to see these guys have success, but it's just not happening. So that's, I guess, the trades. Obviously, you're not in love with it because you want to fleece us, and I'm in love with it because, right? Like every fan that's giving up a good player for splitting a good player into multiple. Right, you always want to fleece, right? You're like, I'm not trading Pettersson unless it's for Draisaitl and Nurse or something like that, right? Like, but that's just the thing.
Interesting trade. That's a lot of cap for us to take on.
I don't know if you guys have the space for that, but
no, I don't think so.
But I mean, from my perspective, I know I don't want to give up Cousins, and I'm liking Byram's game, but if the Bills, Jesus, I've only got the Bills on the mind because that's the only team I really want to focus on right now. But if the Sabres are going to make a move, that's the kind of deal I need them to make. I cannot do, another one of these just middling winger, whatever things. Right. And one of the things for Sabres fans, we'll just kind of shift over to the Sabres now, is they were talking about Nashville really in on Dylan Cousins, but the trade partner in Nashville is just not there for me. I don't want a good player who's and then some futures, some picks. Instead, I want a player who's going to help this team out right now. What this team needs is just more star power. And I think it's crazy, but I think we're finding out that Alex Tuch is a second line winger. Tage Thompson is still him. But this team just needs more. I feel like that we need more top talent, which is crazy to say with how many top draft picks we've had. But I don't know. I honestly, Abby, what is your take on what do you think the Sabres need?
Oh, yeah. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, you know what? They're definitely set in. I think UPL has surpassed both your and my expectations for this year. So, you know what? That's one place where you've been able to just kind of keep your mind at ease. Hopefully, Levi develops and you can pick between the two and use flip one for assets. But either way, I think you'll be fine with UPL going into the future. Look at your decor. You've already got so many pieces, right? You've talked about it. Feels like your decor is already full with Byram and Dahlin and Power and Samuelson. Like, that's 4 defensemen already locked up, you know? Outside of, I guess, Byram's not locked up, but
he's in RFA,
if you keep him, you'd have to lock him up. So if you don't keep him, then maybe you want to look for a nice defensive defenseman. But again, this is what always puzzles me with the Sabres, is it feels like you have so much talent. You know, look up front, you got Peterka, you got Thompson, you got Tuch, you got Jack Quinn, you got Dylan Cousins. You know, sounds like a good forward to according to me. I was just watching the Hockey Guy video, and you're listening to all these players, and you listen to like, oh, that's a good first line. You know, Zach Benson's in there. You know,
Love
second
Zach
and third
Benson.
line both. Yeah, exactly. You've got like Yuri Kulik. Like, you've got all these skilled forwards, and it's just not translating for some reason. Like, I look at the Sabres on paper, and I feel pretty okay about my Demko guarantee. And then I look at the freaking record and you look at the results, and it's like, how is this happening? And it just feels like it's a culture problem. So I feel like the only way to get rid of that is not a player, not a coach, not even a GM. You need a new owner. And I don't think that's coming anytime soon. But something needs to happen. If it's not the owner, then the owner needs to step off and bring a new GM in who sets the culture from the top down. Or a president of hockey ops who sets it down to the GM, to the coach, to the players, that there's losing is not Buffalo Sabres hockey, and develop a true identity to it.
Yep. Okay. Here it comes. Here comes the rant. I know everybody was waiting for it, but here we go. Abby sent me off. Thank you. I honestly, it just starts at the top. He ever since he took over this team, we've gone from one of the top 5 franchises historically. Look it up on points percentage. I'm pretty sure we're tied with the Boston Bruins before Terry Pegula bought the team as far as points percentage. So we are historically an elite team. Yes, I know we've never won the Stanley Cup. We've never had the Wayne Gretzky's, Mario Lemieux, Connor McDavid, Patrick Kane, and Taves. Like, we've never had that, but we've always made the playoffs. We've always been a good team, and we've been one of the strongest markets, yet being one of the smallest markets for hockey. And here's another thing. You mentioned, you look at the roster on paper, it's baffling. You want to hear a fun stat, some advanced analytics for you?
Please
Over
do.
the 12-game winless streak, I can't say losing streak because they did get points, I guess. Overtime losses don't count the same. They count. They lost. Anyway.
It's a losing streak.
Over the 12-game losing streak, well, going into the Toronto game after the 11 games, they were first in the league in high danger chances for. Now they're second. They're also third in the league in high danger chances against. So things are happening.
How did you lose?
Oh, I'm sorry. Third highest high danger chances against. My bad.
Oh.
That third, I just sorted the same way.
The greatest statistical anomaly we've ever seen.
Yeah, if that was the case, I don't know, just fold the franchise. But no, and the amount of 1-goal games that we've had over this stretch. So let's just take a quick look at the schedule over this stretch here. See if I can pull it up quickly enough for you. Oh boy, let's start with the games that I was at. The 1-0 loss to the Minnesota Wild, where literally they took every shot into the freaking chest. Like they were like, oh, they played so well. If they play against good teams like that, it'll be great. I'm like, no, they fired everything into the little bear on his chest. Right? You're not gonna beat good goal. You're not gonna beat. Igor Shesterkin. We could talk about that any time of the day, but not this week. But no, you're not gonna beat freaking, I don't know, Corpusalo or whoever you want to throw in there if you're going to shoot into his chest. Then we lose a 1-goal game in overtime to the Vancouver Canucks. We valiantly battle back, let it go there in overtime. We lose 3-0 to the Islanders. That was just a stinker. We lose 5-4 to the Colorado Avalanche after being up 4-0 in the first 7 minutes of the game. 4-0, and you blow it. Then we lose in overtime to the Winnipeg Jets 3-2. So count it with me. We're on our fifth game of the losing streak.
Fifth game? Yeah, fifth.
With 3 1-goal losses. They get absolutely pantsed by Utah on Saturday afternoon. Okay. Then we lose in a shootout to the Detroit Red Wings after being up 5-3 halfway through the third. Then Thursday, we lose 3-2 to the New York Rangers. After they didn't show up. They didn't show up until the last 5 minutes of the game, and you're not going to beat anybody doing that. They lose 4-2 with an empty netter, so you know what? I'm going to count it. That's a 1-goal loss in my book with the empty netter. 4-2 to the Capitals. Then you lose 5-3 to the Leafs. You get absolutely slapped around by the Montreal Canadiens. Patrick Laine stands at the dot, unpressured for half the game. Hat-trick. And then you get absolutely... the refs were not good. They did follow the rules, but it's bad optics. Well, listen. So the Sabres had a great response. So the Leafs scored a minute and a half into the game, and then the Sabres, like a minute and a half after that, great shifts, score. They point to center ice. They go to drop the faceoff, and the linesman's like, actually, come over here. I think I might have saw a high stick at some point in the play to Chris Tanev's face.
So they review it, which is apparently legal, right? The linesman can call the penalty after the goal if a high stick was missed and it turns into the most specific rule in the rule book. So we go from 1-1 to 1-0 again in a double minor 4-minute power play for the Toronto Maple Leafs, which they score on one of those 2 power plays. So now it's 2-0. And this is game number 12 of the streak. And it's just like, I don't know what to say anymore, man. And at this point, like, you look at the talent, you look at the roster. Lindy Ruff's been a good coach. I'm not going to put it at his feet, right? But at this point, the boys aren't playing. The team is just bleeding chances against. Yes, we're doing well enough in chances for, but we're just bleeding chances against. Kevin Adams clearly has been saving the cap for the extensions of these. These guys don't deserve extensions. You don't need all this cap space to sign Jack Quinn and his piss-poor performance, since that dude is done. He's done. It's over. His career's over. The Achilles injury was terrible. His mind is terrible now. Like, he just turns the puck. Like, Achilles injuries don't mess with your brain, but I kind of feel like they do because you're not at 100%. But no, this team, I'm beating around the bush. It starts at the top. Terry Pegula bought this team, and they've only made the playoffs, I think, once since he bought the team. And that was the season that he bought the team, because he bought them in February. They haven't been back to the playoffs since. And we've been closer to the bottom than to the top every single one of those times. And in a league where 50% and teams fluke their way there all the time.
All the time.
You can't even figure out how to get above 500 for 75% of those seasons. And Terry Pegula still wants to be like, oh, if we sign Taylor Hall, we're a cup contender. Bullshit. And you shouldn't even be talking about it. You get your ass back to your mega yacht in the Netherlands and let the hockey people do hockey things. You think you know hockey because you can drill an oil well? No, you have no idea what it takes. I have no idea what it takes, but how about you hire somebody who does? Yeah. But they hired a president of hockey ops, Pat LaFontaine, and he was going to set the culture. Couple months later, he's out because he's just headbutting with the Pegulas because they want to run the team instead of just cash the checks. So Pat LaFontaine is out. And guess what? Kevin Adams said he's in conversations with Terry Pegula every day. Big red flag! Alarm bells! That is not good for your general manager to be texting your owner at 3 a.m. like, hey, you up? I got an idea. Like, that should not be happening.
So what do you think about Beck Malenstein?
Yeah, Beck Malenstein for a second. For a second, we did that. And I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. Like, you got to get players here. Nobody's going to come here, blah, 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 blah. But come on. We got to talk a little bit about asset management. And we have good prospects and whatnot, but they're not growing. They're not developing. They're growing and learning in the NHL. JJ Peterka and Jack Quinn, like, JJ Peterka is now in his own head. He doesn't know how to win, and there's nobody in that locker room that does. The only freaking guy is Jason Zucker, but he obviously can't shift the culture of the established core of Tuck, Thompson, Dahlin, and those guys. Like, oh, God, I feel so bad for some of those guys because they never got the proper development of how to learn in the NHL how to win. And it is different than any other league in the world on how do you win. And I'm sorry, but at this point, I'm out of excuses. I'm out of whatever. Sell the team. And if the team moves, good. Because then I can have my winters back without being depressed and screaming into a microphone about a shitty bunch of shitters that can't shit.
Damn. Shitty bunch of shitters that can't shit, I think is probably the most accurate summary of an enraged fan I've ever heard. I absolutely agree. If you can't let the hockey people make the hockey decisions, Terry Pegula may be the biggest idiot there is out there because he's already done this with another team and seen the success. He let the football people make the football decisions, and the Bills have been perennial playoff contenders. You've literally already done the right thing. You have an MVP quarterback. They figured everything out. The Buffalo Bills are one of the most stable football teams there is right now. They have no fucking receivers, and Josh Allen's going to win the MVP. No disrespect to Keon Coleman. No disrespect to Amari Cooper. He came mid-season. Josh Allen is going to win the MVP. You're seeing great success, and you can't take it in your billionaire mind. Wow, this worked amazing in the NFL. Let me try it in the hockey team that has been failing to make the playoffs for all these years. Wow.
And you know what's crazy to me, too? The Sabres are $5 million under the cap. What is that $5 million doing for Terry Pegula right now?
Jack, earning interest at his checking account.
And you know what's happening? You're getting less gate receipts. You're getting less concessions because people would rather wear bags on their heads, wear Hawaiian shirts, and bring inflatable palm trees than buy a goddamn beer for $20 at your stupid... Dude, I swear to God, if I go right now and try to buy tickets for the Chicago Blackhawks game, and you know what? I'm gonna be like, I don't want to sit in the 300s. I feel like sitting in the... Dude, it is $62 to get in to next Friday night's game against the Chicago Blackhawks, which could be game number, what is that? I think that's game number 15 of the losing streak. $62 to get in to sit in the very back row.
That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. That's too much.
Oh, it's a verified resale ticket. That's not even a box office ticket. That's some poor soul trying to get out of it. And that's what they're being told to sell their tickets for. Like, I can't believe it. A standard admission ticket, it's $104 to buy a ticket from the box office to go see a Sabres game right now. So
if you and a partner or you and a friend want to go see a Sabres game, it's $208 to sit up in the 300s.
Yes. Row 7. By the way, I think there's like 20 some rows up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Row 14. They're selling tickets. Row 14, the final row of the 300s is $104.
That's embarrassing.
And you want to know? And you want to know why your building's empty? And I had a conversation with some other Sabres fans earlier today, and they were like, you know what? I want to see us, do the opposite of what we're doing. Instead of not showing up and booing them every chance we get, we should go and we should support them and see how they react. I'm like, okay, you try convincing the rest of Western New York to spend $104 on a team that could be potentially going for 15 losses in a row. I don't know how at this point the fans bear any weight in this. We've been patient enough. Our attendance has not been a problem. Like, it's been fine.
No, absolutely. That's exactly what I was gonna say, is throughout all the losing years, the Sabres fans kept showing up. It isn't until this year when they were finally fed up enough to stop showing up. I think it was until 2022, 2023, they stayed above 18,000 in attendance every single year. They've been incredibly patient with this team, more patient than they should have been. This building should have been empty for years already, but the fan base is so great that they've still shown up for this pile of garbage they've had to watch.
And they're not doing anything about it right now, which is the big thing. Now, I understand the roster freeze is in place when we record this, when we upload it, right? No moves are being made. There's nobody walking through that door to save you over the next 5 games of the year, right? Not until the new year, right? I don't know how long it lasts. I think maybe you can trade for somebody at the new year. I think it's just like after Christmas, but either way, 5 games. Nobody's coming to help. This could reach 17 before Kevin Adams has a chance to lift a finger. And he's had chances to lift a finger. And I know that he comes out and says, our expected goals are right between Dallas and New Jersey, right where you want to be. I'm like, bro, what fucking model are you using that has us even comparable to New Jersey and Dallas? Like, come on, dude. You can't. I'm an analytics guy, and I'm going to even roll my eyes when your internal model is telling me that you're as good as the Devils and the Stars, but you just need to get the... No. I honestly, I don't want to hear it. I'm done using advanced analytics because I don't want to pay for these websites to watch this shitty hockey team. Like, I don't really care what the RAPM chart looks like for Jack Quinn, because I can tell you what, it's all negative. I don't need advanced analytics to tell me half of these dudes suck. So, like, I sound like the anti-me, but like it's just what it's come to. Yeah, like, dude, I've lost it. I don't care. I can't get into hockey, and I want to watch games on the weekends, even if the Sabres aren't playing, and I want to be checking the standings and seeing the stats. Sabres fans, I implore you, do not go to NHL.com and look at the league leaders for any statistical category. I promise you, nothing good there. There's nothing there for you. There's nothing good. Right? Okay, I'll do it for you. Look, Sam Reinhart's at 9th in the NHL in points. Jack Eichel's at 10th in the NHL at points. Let's see. As far as goals are concerned, who's at the top of goals? Sam Reinhart's in 5th for goals. Interesting. What about assists? Jack Eichel's 4th in assists. Like, it's not too bad, right? Oh my God. And, Linus Ullmark's at 8th in the league at goal against average, right? If only the Sabres could get a couple guys like that.
My goodness, where would they find them?
I know. You know what? I think we tear it down. We tank for the number 1 overall pick, and that'll right all the wrongs. I think that's what the Sabres need to do to move forward.
McDavid.
Yes. They should have tanked for McDavid. If only they tanked for McDavid, we wouldn't be in this mess.
If only they had had the best odds at McDavid.
Oh, I mean, it just adds to the list. Like, Jack Eichel is a great player, right? I've said and I've tried to deny it for years, right? And well, I went from vehemently saying Jack Eichel's a top 10 center to then he leaves and I'm like, actually, he's very deficient. LOL, Vegas missed the postseason with him. Like, LOL, suck at Jack Eichel. And by the way, it had nothing to do with the neck surgery. Like, it's his body. He should choose what he wants with his neck, right? Whatever. I have no qualms there, but I don't know his attitude, and I get it, right? This building can suck the life out of you, but he's just a great player. All that to say, it's just a great player. So Ryan O'Reilly is actually the only Sabre that's doing worse since, not since he left, but this season.
Yeah.
Maybe dealing with his age.
At this point, dude, listen, they're 21st in goals for per game, and they rank 27th in goals against per game, the Sabres do. It's awful hockey to watch. There's a bunch of brain dead mistakes, and these players have no idea what it means to win. And I think the biggest sin, and we're gonna just boil it down to this, and then I'm gonna leave it at that. The biggest sin the Sabres made was turning it over to the kids too soon. They didn't bring in respected vets. They didn't have an established transition plan. Like, look at. Okay, it's a little different, but look at the Penguins when they went from Lemieux to Crosby. They didn't get rid of Lemieux to get Crosby, and some may say the league rigged it or whatever. But my point is, we've seen teams do this teardown with no veterans. Look out, Chicago. You're next, because you are doing that with Connor Bedard. But at least he's got Nick Foligno, right? The solid hockey dude. Taylor Hall, who doesn't know how to win anything. Right? So, like, Chicago, I'm a little bit concerned they're going to head down the Sabres path, because it is a great way to get a ton of talent, but these kids cannot learn how to win in a losing environment. And the Sabres created a culture of losing and then didn't have any established veterans like the Thomas Vaneks, the Pominvilles, the Ryan Millers, those guys, Derek Roy. Those guys weren't here to transition to the next generation of young stars. There was nobody here. They brought in a Vander Kane and a Ryan O'Reilly that would drive drunk through a Tim Hortons and a Zach Bogosian. And just, these are not guys that have won, that know what it takes. And it sounds stupid. I sound like I'm part of the boys club, the old white dude thing, right? No, like, there's validity to learning how to win and setting an example and leading by example. And all the Sabres have seen,
setting a team culture.
Yes, and all they know, and I'm sure these guys want to win, and I'm sure they care that they're not winning, and I'm sure they care that they're letting the fans down, and that's all adding to it. But the only guy in that locker room that's been there and done it is Jason Zucker. And yes, Bowen Byram's won a cup, so he's got Stanley Cup pedigree. But no, you need a president of hockey ops that's done it. You need a GM that's done it, and you need a coach that's done it. You need to let that freaking coach pick his assistants so that they can do it too. And then you can establish this culture in this cycle where you promote from within. Why the hell are we promoting the Rochester Amherst coach to be the power play guy when the power play was the one weakness with all that talent in Rochester? They act like they're this factory that can just churn out good coaches and good talent. And again, it's not a talent identification problem, right? They don't have a problem with the roster. Obviously, they're deficient in some areas, but there is talent on the roster. And we've seen that. Those guys leave and they win cups because they go to a team that knows how to win, that's got a structure and an organization that knows how to, right? And they've got coaches that are great coaches. Oh, God, I'm blanking on the name of the guy in Florida, but, Bruce Cassidy is a great coach it is Bruce Cassidy, right, for the Vegas Golden Knights? Yeah, it is. He's the coach. But I forget who the coach is down in Florida. Abby, do you know who the coach in Florida is?
Is it Paul Maurice?
Is it Paul Maurice? Yes, it is. It is Paul Maurice, right? Like, that's a respected hockey guy, right?
Yeah.
Lindy Ruff is another respected hockey guy, but when he's surrounded by so many incompetent people, you just can't get it done. So all that to say, the season's over. We didn't even make it to Christmas this year. I yelled about it last year at this time of year. I'm going to yell about it again this year. So it was fun, boys. I know we are 10 points out. We're 10 points out of the playoffs, Abby. Can you believe that? We are 10 points.
Already? My God.
But we're only 10 points with 48 games to go. Well, but like my point is, with 48 games to go, you're 5 wins behind Ottawa, and Ottawa's not a juggernaut, right? They're only there because the rest of the East can't figure it out, right? Boston is 12 points ahead, but we play them tonight, and we have a game in hand. Tampa is 12 points ahead of us, right? So like it's a long way to go, but it's not like they're dead in the water, right? Like,
why are you giving people hope? Why are you giving people hope? You're setting yourself up to be hurt again.
My point is, I'm not even going to, let me just get to the point here. They're 10 points out. There's still a chance, but there is no way this team does it. This franchise has proven incapable of making any steps forward, of taking any positive momentum, or generating any level of positivity. So even though you could sit there and say, oh, they're 5 games out, right? They just need to get hot. Guys, they're on a 65-point pace. You know how hot they need to get to turn this ship around, to get to a 93-point pace, which is probably where somebody's going to figure it out, and that's what we'll get to at the end of the season, right? Even if it's an 89-point pace that gets you into the East this year, they're not going to do it. Yeah, you can look at the standings and tell me that they're 5 games out, they're 10 points, right? But it's not happening. There's no world where it happens. There's no way they just figure it out. The defense gets better. The goal scoring comes back. The team looks cohesive. No, it's over. And until something massive changes down at KeyBank Center, whether that's Pegula getting out of the way, maybe lucking into the right GM, who then, Lindy steps aside because the season's been too depressing for him, and we finally got the coaching staff, and we make a couple big moves, right? Like, until something happens, guys, don't bother. Don't turn your TV on. Don't watch this franchise. Don't give them any more money. And I'd love to say, let's support them with a ton of positivity and see what happens. But I know you guys work hard for your money, and I know you guys spend a lot of time, and your time is valuable. Do not waste it on this franchise. This franchise is dead to you. It should be dead to me. But for whatever reason, I'm in a masochist competition, and the rest of my competition is the Buffalo Sabres fans, and it is a neck-and-neck race, dude. It is a tough race. So
I think you got to leg up. You're still talking about them. You're taking your weekend to talk about the Buffalo Sabres. I think we can move you up the list.
Yeah, I guess so. There is that one Sabres fan that has tickets right behind the bench. He's the season ticket holder guy. He's got tickets right behind the bench. He's there every game. God bless that man. Terry Pegula, you need to look that man in the face and tell him that you are actually and honestly doing everything in your power to turn this franchise around. And I just want to hear it. The words out of your mouth. We are doing what we can, because clearly nothing's changed. And it's been 14 years of you owning the Sabres. Guess how long their playoff drought is going to be? 14 years. So I appreciate all you done, keeping us in Buffalo and everything like that. Sell the team to somebody who's just going to write checks and get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah. Or do it yourself.
At this point, no. At this point, no. I don't want him to see him as part of like a Stanley Cup parade someday. No, absolutely not. He deserves zero positive. He cannot withdraw any positivity from this organization. He deserves nothing at this point. He's killed the sport of hockey in the city of Buffalo. I remember growing up, everybody played street hockey. Now, I'm lucky if I see 1 or 2 Sabres apparel on the street, right? He's killed hockey in Buffalo, and he's turned it into hockey hell, where careers go to die, where you lose the love of the game, where you just cash checks and play with no heart and no emotion, and you care, and you're trying. Sure, okay. Yeah. So he's killed everything that has to do with Sabres hockey in Buffalo. And at this point, the last thing I want to see is him get any kind of positive recognition for this team. So that's where I'll end it on Terry Pegula and the Sabres.
Well, I think that sums it up pretty well. I didn't mean to get you started on this rant, but I think it's been festering, and I'm glad we got it here so that other Sabres fans can look at this and have their catharsis and be like, yes, screw you, Pegula. Yes, we need this, and we need this. And they can go on their NHL or go on their Xboxes and PlayStations, do their Sabres rebuild and be the new owners and do all that. And you know what? we can hope. We can hope Pagula sells the team, and there's an owner who sees how much the fans kept coming out, even when, when Pagula killed this market, and maybe he wants to rebuild it. Maybe he funds some programs where he gets younger kids into hockey. Maybe he, puts the money into the Sabres. Maybe he lets the hockey people do this stuff, or he's a hockey person himself, and we can do that. But again, what I'm talking about is a complete pipe dream at this point, and what we live in is the Pagula hell, as you've put it.
So I've seen a bunch of people on Twitter actually tagging Ryan Reynolds to come buy the team, because he did try to go in for the Ottawa team. So
yeah, as someone from the same city as Ryan Reynolds, I think it'd be a great pickup, because he's someone who I think gets it. Like, obviously, like, I don't know him intimately, but
really, you don't say.
No, no, I don't just hang out with Ryan Reynolds every Saturday or something like that. But he seems like a guy with a good head on his shoulders. I think he could be a good potential owner who will just simply likes hockey and will cash the checks, and let the management do their thing.
I mean, you look at what he's done with Wrexham over in England, right? Wales, really. But they play in the English structure anyway, and that team is just absolutely flying. He's given them support. Him and Rob McElhenney, I highly recommend watching that documentary. It's really entertaining, and even if you don't like soccer, you'd probably enjoy it, because it's Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, basically. So
yeah.
But honestly, like, he's just giving them what they need, and they're in there with meetings and like, hey, we are spending a lot of money, so like they want to be informed, but they hired a really, really good executive that comes to them and tells them what's going on. And obviously they're part of some decisions, but I think Terry Pagula needs to back off. And honestly, like, if Ryan Reynolds came in, that'd be really cool for the city.
Yeah, that's someone you would want to see at a Buffalo Sabres championship parade.
Yes, exactly. I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're stuck with Pagula. He's going to pass it off. It's going to be a family heirloom type thing. And they're going to be the most hated people that Buffalo's ever seen. And honestly, he's probably already there, but he's getting a little bit of benefit of the doubt because Josh Allen is good at football. But we've ranted it long enough at this point, Abby. So any remaining thoughts on the Sabres? I know I've said a lot. So, or the Canucks, anything we didn't get to that you wanted to speak on?
I think we should leave the viewers something to hear about next week. But I think in general, like you said, Canucks struggling. I don't even know if you can see the Sabres are struggling. They're just stuck in the mud right now. And what we're hoping for is someone lets out a little vine to pull the Sabres out, and the Sabres can help themselves. Until then, we'll be here, hopefully, every single week to, I don't know, bring something. Bring something to Sabres fans. Bring some light to Sabres fans' lives.
Just do stuff. You know what? We care, and we're trying, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that this podcast is good. So we're doing about as much as the Sabres are, which is nothing, to make sure that I'm kidding. We honestly, oh man, I'm the editing in this one, guys. So if honestly, those of you watching on YouTube or listening, I apologize if there is anything terrible with the audio quality or the video or something, because it has been a bad episode for us to record, but
yeah,
still doing more than Kevin Adams, so we can at least say that. But for now, guys, go Canucks. You guys go get one of those divisional spots, because I don't like seeing you in the wild card. I don't like having to scroll. You guys get to the top. We'll be at the bottom, so you can find us if you just sort by the inverse. So there is a chance that tonight the Sabres fall into last place in the NHL. Actually, the Sabres are actively in last place in the NHL. So there you go.
Goodness.
Wouldn't you know it? So the Sabres are now the worst team in the NHL Christmas weekend, because I guess, I don't know what changed, but Chicago's playing Calgary. So if Chicago wins or picks up a point and the Sabres don't beat the Boston Bruins, the Sabres are in sole possession of 32nd in the NHL. We haven't been in 32nd very often, but we are usually at the bottom. So we're going to claim that throne yet again. That's what we strive for here in Buffalo's mediocrity. Go out and have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and go have a lot more fun than anybody going to a Sabres game. Abby, it's been a pleasure, and I will talk to you in the next one.
Peace.